Hey everybody, welcome to the Fired Up with CJ show. We have a really interesting show today. We have Bhava Ram, and we're going to be talking about his upcoming visit to East West Bookstore, which is on August 1st. So welcome.
Thank you very much. It's good to be with you.
Yeah, so your story is fascinating. You started off as a war correspondent. You fractured a vertebrae on vacation, which is kind of the worst thing ever. And then, and it was deemed by the doctors as incurable. You then had stage 4 cancer, and it was from the grace of your 2-year-old son that said, "Daddy, get up." That was your call to adventure into your new line of work, which is spreading the joy of yoga to everyone. What a fascinating story.
Well, I like to say that my life right now is sharing the science of yoga.
Sharing the science again.
Yoga is modern science, even at the quantum physics level, now refers to this as self-directed biological transformation. We realize that through applying the fundamental elements of the deeper teachings of yoga texts, not just yoga postures, but mindful thinking and affirmation and lifestyle and nutrition and harmony with the rhythms of nature and authenticity and listening to our inner wisdom, that through these practices, we actually change the neuropeptides in our bodies. We change ourselves down to the genomes of our DNA. Self-directed biological transformation. We empower ourselves to take charge of our own healing and personal growth rather than the typical paradigm we have now of surrendering to a medical system, which usually just gives us medications and surgeries and testing and oftentimes never really gets to the root of what's happening to us. And there are a whole host of side effects with many of these techniques.
Is the
And that's what I'm devoting my life to, is that this is a science that can help large segments of the American population and the global population heal to a high degree and also come to a state of greater inner harmony and outer harmony, that together we really can be the change that we seek in the world.
Is the science that you're referring to the epigenetics part of it? So when you're thinking happy thoughts, when your body is actually experiencing a calming sense, that it calms our whole system down, that affects our genes, expressions. Is that what you're referring to, or is it what do you refer to in the science?
Absolutely. Let me say a little bit about my life experience. I was a journalist for network television and local network affiliated market television before that. Usually an investigative journalist, which really gave me a voice and was my complete identity in my life. Ultimately working my way to a dream job I never thought I would have, because I'm from a very humble state college and a humble middle class background. And there I am with Tom Brokaw working for NBC News. And I started going abroad and became a foreign correspondent. I was very type A.
Yeah.
And very driven, and my mantra back then was, I'm going to work longer and harder than anyone else.
Oh,
After coming out of Afghanistan in 1986, during the Soviet war there, I took a rare vacation. I was down in the tropics, battening down storm windows, fell off a ledge and fractured that lowest vertebra in my spine. But because I was so type A, and because this career completely defined who I was, I kept working because I knew I would lose my spot on that rocket ship. There were 1,000 people waiting to take that seat if I slowed down. So I worked for 7 years with a technically broken back. And the only way that I was able to
so you still worked after your back was broken. Oh my
for
goodness,
7 years.
I can get that.
The only way that I was able to do this was painkillers, muscle relaxers, and more alcohol every night. And I did this through the Gulf War, through apartheid in Africa, through cocaine drug wars in South America, and beyond. Ultimately, I was in charge of all Asia after the Gulf War for NBC News.
Yeah.
So my career is this trajectory.
Yeah.
But my mental and my physical health was going in the opposite direction. When you're in chronic pain, You're gripped by fear and anger. You can snap at people very quickly. Your personality is altered.
Mm-hmm.
And in 1993, 7 years into this, I was working on assignment in the Philippines. I was living in Hong Kong at the time, and I leaned over after a hard day to look at some videotape, and that fractured vertebra snapped and started to impinge on my spinal cord, and I howled and blacked out. And I had major back surgery, and it failed, and I was declared permanently disabled. So I went from this global, totally fulfilled life.
Right. Top of your
Putting
career.
a body brace.
Yeah.
Could not sit up to eat a meal. Had to walk with a cane. And now it was Vicodin and Valium and Prozac and Ritalin and all these drugs. More alcohol every night because I was fighting off a depression I didn't want to face. I had lost my identity. I had lost my physical health. I had lost my sense of manhood in that way. I felt completely emasculated. I was a poster boy for PTSD. And it wasn't from the horrors that I witnessed on the front lines of war, which I did. It was from the loss of identity, which I think is one of the primary reasons behind PTSD in our troops, more than what they experience in the battlefield, because 90% of our troops are in the back lines in the command and control, and yet more than 50% of the suicides every day by veterans, they never saw combat. They lost their identity, and that is deeply traumatizing. And so it was on the brink of death. Stage 4 cancer also came up after the birth of my little boy from exposure years earlier to depleted uranium used by the American troops in the Persian Gulf War. And I was on the front lines of the tanks that they blew up with these toxins and breathing it in. Started in my throat, went throughout my whole body, and my doctor said, "You will not live." And here's morphine to go along with that arsenal of pharmaceutical medications.
Yeah.
That was my journey into the darkest abyss of self-pity, anger, fear, depression, hypervigilance, and PTSD. And it was just before the year 2000 dawned. My little boy was 2. I pushed everyone else out of my life. And he came to me and he spoke these 3 little words that are in my book, Warrior Pose, the memoir: "Get up, Daddy." And it cracked me open in a place that I didn't really know that I had. And all I could think of was, I had to die with dignity. I didn't respect myself anymore. I was drunk every day. I was so stoned on these heavy narcotic medications. I was a basket case. So I detoxed cold turkey in a hospital after what now was 14 years. And boy, that's another story. All the demons in Dante's Inferno are real. They checked in with me.
What were they saying? Because I'm curious, because people talk about the dark night of the soul. What were the thoughts running through your head during those dark nights of the soul?
These hallucinations that looked very much like the gargoyles that you see on Renaissance towers.
Yes, yeah.
Spinning through the air and coming down and tearing at my flesh and into my brain, and I'm lying on the floor writhing and screaming for 7 or 8 days, and oh my gosh, throwing up and beyond, and my whole body just falling apart.
Yeah.
And at the end of that, I was dazed and confused and had no idea what to do next when they offered me entry into an experimental clinic of mind body medicine, ancient Eastern healing modalities and modern Western holistic techniques. I didn't even understand what they were saying.
Right.
And I grabbed at it. And I started with biofeedback, which hooks you up to electrodes, your skin, the temperature, your brain waves, your heart rate, and so forth. And they played me a guided visualization. And in 20 minutes, I had a different taste in my body. And for the first time in my life, I realized I have finally relaxed. I let go of tension I didn't even know I was holding on to because I had held on to it for so many years. And that's
during those 14 years of pain, or during your entire life, including the war correspondent, that was
during those 14 years of pain and as a war correspondent.
Yeah, you just finally dropped
it.
Yeah.
And I realized I had a major role to play in whatever healing was possible for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I started studying this at the hotel where I was staying nearby this pain center. I had the concierge get books and about mind body healing.
And what books did you read? Can you tell me what books you ended up reading?
Well, the main one was by Dr. Emmett Miller, who was a pioneer of mind-body medicine, and he wrote this incredible book called Deep Healing. He's now a close colleague, and we even teach together. He wrote
great.
to my memoir, Warrior Pose. He's a remarkable, remarkable man. He had been a surgeon, mainstream, and he realized that mind-body was more powerful than a scalpel. And again, he was one of the founders of this movement. And there was a chapter in this book that we had never met, and I swear to you, he wrote it for me. Because this chapter said it's time for you to get out of your self-pity. Time for you to stop feeling so sorry for yourself and to step up and take charge of your life. And I really heard that. That was the second big hit after Get Up Daddy.
Yeah.
And about a month and a half into this journey, where I'm just trying to walk down the hall without my body brace, which was very challenging because I wasn't stoned on all these pain.
Yeah, it's painful.
It was difficult, and I was overweight because I had, for all those years that I was laid up, eaten like a foreign correspondent who hikes mountains and crosses deserts. So the only thing that happened to me was my body brace had to be loosened and loosened. I was obese.
Yeah. Oh no.
And they said it's time for yoga. Well, the cynical, analytical, Western hardcore journalist in me said, "Oh, this is hooey."
Okay.
But this deeper place that had been opened inside of me said, "No, this is it."
Open from reading that book. That's what.
From my little boy started to grow.
Okay, good.
From biofeedback and book. And so I heard a voice deeper inside of me that said, "This is it." And I chose not to go with my ego voice, but with the whisper, or this, basically the scream of my soul. I was so stiff even when I had been healthy. And now I'm overweight, I have a broken back and cancer. I could barely get my legs up the wall in the most restive yoga posture at all. But it touched me, and back at that hotel I started looking into it and soon realized that yoga is so much more than what most of us in the West think of it as. We think it's postures and yoga clothes and yoga mats, and that's an important part, the asanas, the postures, but it's a small piece of this self-directed biological transformation that we call yoga. And as I began to read these ancient texts, thousands of years old, like the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, the Upanishads, the Hatha Yoga Pradipika, I started applying all these practices to my life, and I realized this is cutting-edge science, even though it's thousands of years old. First thing I did was change my diet from meat and potatoes to whole food, plant-based diet. That means veganism. I call it organic chemotherapy. And I fasted, and I did these ancient purifications that are also a deep part of Hatha yoga. Enemas, purgations, and getting all the acid out of my body through ritualized throwing up.
Right.
And fasting for long periods of time. And I took 80 pounds off my body.
Wow.
As I continued to get more limber doing these poses every day, what happened was the pain center closed about 3 months into it.
Oh no.
Because insurance companies wouldn't reimburse. I knew 3 people there. 2 of them went back to drugs and alcohol. And the third person, my closest friend, took his own life.
Oh God, I'm sorry.
I went home and built a yoga room. And I started practicing. I live in San Diego. And 8-10 hours a day, only coming out to be with my little boy when he woke up, get him to preschool, back into my yoga room, pick him up, he goes down for a nap, back in my yoga room, studying these texts, but doing the practices, breath work, fasting, organic chemotherapy, postures more and more and more, and studying and telling myself a different story about who I was.
Mm-hmm.
and I had a capacity to heal. I exchanged self-pity, anger, fear, depression, hypervigilance for compassion and gratitude and forgiveness and loving kindness. And in this process, slowly, over a year, almost 2 years, I took 1,000 pounds of emotional goo off of me. And that changed me dramatically. At the end of 2 years, 80 to 85 pounds lighter, very manageable, and rare back pain, and the cancer is gone. It's been 17 years now, and I am cancer-free. So I was supposed to live for a maximum of 2 years when I was diagnosed.
Yeah.
So this science works. Yoga science transforms.
Yeah. What were the you said that you had a year period where you're, transforming your thoughts and towards compassion and love and forgiveness. What was the actual practice that you were using? Were you using a specific yoga practice, or is it just meditation on those concepts?
The practice comes from the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, about 2,500 years old text, one of the primary texts of yoga science. It's called Pradapaksha Bhavana. That is the deliberate cultivation of positive emotions, which is now a key centerpiece of epigenetics. Laughter is the best medicine. And I would do mantras, just I am forgiveness, I am grateful, I am loving and peaceful, I'm calm and relaxed, I'm letting go. And another part of this practice was releasing the ego and not trying to control everything like we type A people try to do most of our lives. And realizing that if I see the oneness, not just in all people, but in all that is, that this is a universe, not a multiverse, that we're all in this together, we can start to release the ego, and we can come down to this deeper place inside of us. I call that our inner guru, that we all have this profound wisdom and intelligence and insight within us, from which we have largely been disenfranchised by a mass media overstimulated culture that, yaps at us all the time, so much that our minds are so scrambled that we're having 1,000 thoughts a minute, none of them relate to the other one, and we can no longer hear the whisper of our inner guru. Yoga is really a journey from here to here. But it takes devotion and practice. There were many times I felt weak, like I didn't want to do it. I was getting up long before sunrise now, which is also a yoga practice. So I'm in the circadian rhythms of nature.
So it's like 3 or 4 in the morning, right?
Yes, and there were times I didn't want to get up, and I would just say, "Get up, Daddy." And I remember that boy that I so wanted to be proud of his father rather than have a drunken, stone dying person. And that would give me the energy to get up and to go down into my yoga room and to practice. Every time I got weak, I used that power symbol. This isn't about you, Bhava Ram. This is about your child, which also helps you surrender your own ego and look to something larger in life. And the interesting thing, again, is that this works. This is science. It's not just New Age, sounds nice talk.
Right.
When you do things like this, you actually do change your inner chemistry. When you're calm and relaxed and in a state of peace, your immune system is incredibly enhanced, because when you're in fight or flight, adrenaline and cortisol rolling through your body, your immune system is told you're on hold.
Right.
We have to run away or conquer.
Right.
This
Go
is
fight.
Conquer. Yeah,
Right.
Fight. And your digestive system is on hold. So you're not even metabolizing whatever good nutrients you're putting into your body to your capacity. And when you're in this rest and restore state associated with the parasympathetic nervous system, you're making oxytocin and anandamide.
Yeah, feel good medicine.
The good stuff inside. With no side effects.
Right, exactly.
Prescription. And it doesn't cost all that
Natural
money.
high, yeah.
And your immune system gets boosted. And your capacity to metabolize is greatly increased. Your nervousness and anger and reactivity dissipates. You come more into the present moment. You learn to act skillfully rather than to react. And this process transforms. That's why it's called self-directed, taking charge of your life. Biological, because it's the mental and the physical biology of the human organism. Transformation. That's yoga.
So I have a question. I want to go back to the surrendering of ego. I'm in that state right now where, and I'm sure you've been at this place many times based on what I hear about your journey, where you feel pulled. You had that you call your inner guru who was calling you. And then there's the cynical ego type A part that still, for me at least, is still has a little, sitting on my shoulder talking to me. When you hit those places, what was the most helpful thing for you to do? Because I'm at that place right now where it's, no, surrender to spirit. Oh no, that's stupid. Don't listen to that. What are you going to get out of this? That kind of thing.
I understand. There are several things that are important to do. The first thing is to, when you get into that more negative state, to forgive yourself. None of us walk on water. We're all human beings, and oftentimes people come to spiritual practice and want to overachieve and think, I have to be happy and show everyone that I'm happy all 24/7, and I have to be in bliss, and I have to meditate for 2 hours a day and do 2 hours of yoga and so forth. And we set ourselves up for complete failure. So the first thing is to be forgiving. We don't walk on water. None of us do. We're human beings. Guru in Sanskrit means dark light.
Oh, interesting. So I didn't know that.
Guru is always moving from the darkness to the light. And we fluctuate. We're human beings. The more that we do practice, the more that our dial goes toward the light. But it's still going to fluctuate. I teach this now worldwide, and I practice it every day. And there are times that I'm really in a state of contentment and peace and pure presence, and there's times that my ego flares up and I can see myself getting angry and controlling and so forth. But that's why I practice.
Yeah. So what happens when
you don't have this illusion that I'm going to become a saint or a sage.
And you forgive yourself when you're not. Okay, what happens when you reach that point where like, there's my ego. There's my ego talking. When you said you're tired. What do you do when that happens?
That's beautiful, because just noticing it is presence. Before, when we're stuck in it, we don't even notice it.
Yeah.
We're just there.
Right.
When you notice it, you can just come to a mantra and say, I'm strong and healthy, calm and relaxed, or I'm putting this in the hands of my higher power. Or what we often teach is to stop and think, how can I be skillful in action instead of reactive? It's a big switch. How can I be skillful in action, and then how can I give up the outcome of that to my sense of higher power? So I'm not trying to control the outcome. This is hard for the Western world because we're a culture that's oriented on being the individual who's in charge, and it's all about you. And this is a more Eastern approach if it's about oneness and letting go. There's incredible power and strength in peace. It's much more powerful than inner conflict or outer conflict, as Mahatma Gandhi showed us by having the largest and most powerful empire in the history of the world at the time leave his country because he held peace and authenticity. So when we catch ourselves, we can act skillfully. And this might sound a little funny to you, but do you brush your teeth?
No, never. Yes, I do.
Do you brush your teeth every day?
I do.
Okay. How do you think that's changed your life?
Well, my teeth are healthier.
Your teeth are healthier. Perhaps you might have a little more romantic time with your beloved that you wouldn't have if you never brushed your teeth.
It's true.
They go round and filled with cavities.
Yes.
And you don't have root canals and dentists with drills in your mouth. The truth is, if you never brushed your teeth, you wouldn't even have a career. No one would watch your show. No one would want to talk to you or hire you for a job. So your destiny would be terrible. So this daily practice of brushing your teeth has completely changed your destiny on social levels, economic, professional levels. Completely changed your destiny. And we need to understand that to change our sense of self and contentment, we need to practice every day, just like we brush our teeth every day. Most of us just say, why doesn't the world make me happy?
Right.
Why doesn't the world do this for me? That's like saying, why doesn't the world make me have nice breath and no cavities?
Right.
No. Why doesn't the world make my body slim?
Right.
If we're overweight? Everything takes practice. And truly, spiritual practice and awareness practice is more important than oral hygiene. Most of us don't want to work at it. That's the trick in this self-directed biological transformation. You have to believe in yourself and make a gentle yet sustained effort every day.
Yeah, I get it. I want to go back to your type A, which I can relate to. And there's a concept that's called sthira and sukha, effort and ease, which I assume based on your personality, and that's still there, right? I mean, you can transcend ego, but there's still a little remnant probably of that part, that part of us. So how do you now, you talked about kind of striving to be working harder and all those kind of things are part of your ethos. And now, and you talk about people going to yoga class and working harder and trying to get enlightened in 2 hours. So how have you throughout your life balanced this idea, sthira and sukha?
Which is steadiness and comfort in Sanskrit, as you've said, and comes also from the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. I do it by daily practice. I still get up before sunrise every morning. No longer free. I've remarried to a magnificent woman who I've been with for 12 years now, and my boy is still with us. And I get up before the family gets up as the sun rises, which is part of a yoga practice. And I do whatever I feel my body needs in terms of movement and deeper breath. And then I take a short time for contemplation. And my contemplation is basically saying, let me live from my heart today and not from my head. I remind myself every day. That's what the name Bhava Ram really means. I was born Brad Willis with a Western name. And I've taken that name not because I always think I'm there, but it's what I aspire.
It's aspirational.
It comes from India, and I did a ceremony around it with a great teacher there in India. And I know some people think it's a little funny to change your name, but if Lady Gaga and Pope Francis can do it, and Mark Twain can do it, I think it's okay.
Well, I think it's a practice, right? I mean, people go to India and they release their identity because they're moving to their new egoless or less ego-filled identity, and so it's aspirational, right? It's the essence of maybe who you are at the being level, right? So why not have that name versus
and
whatever your name used to be?
It really has passed away by and large.
Really?
Again, everything bubbles up every now and then. We all have habituated patterns, and we're human beings, and the needle between gu and ru is flexible. But the more that we have a gentle and affirming practice, and the more we serve others, which is why this year I founded Warriors for Healing Foundation to bring this incredible transformative science to veterans who I understand well because I was in so many war zones, and we created Warriors for Healing to bring this science to veterans and other life-traumatized populations in the country. And Dr. Emmett Miller, who wrote that wonderful book, is on our board, as is Deepak Chopra, who I've had the honor of teaching with this year. And actually, it was Dr. Chopra who coined the phrase self-directed biological transformation. He's done a lot of research in epigenetics with his colleagues as well. We're partnered right now with the Yoga Journal conferences as well, and I have major events underway at warriorsforhealing.org, and we hope to grow this next year as well to serve women who have faced domestic abuse and nurses who are a fairly traumatized population, first responders. and so forth. So
Mm-hmm.
this is also what I'm devoting my life to now, and it's my way of giving back. And whenever you do service for others, it also helps us go from here to here. Whenever you think, how can I help others, rather than what's in it for me,
Mm-hmm.
there's a shift that happens that's very healing and transformative.
How would you describe that part? The thing that I'm being asked to do, that I'm trying to surrender into, is to do something that makes no sense here and hasn't necessarily hit here yet. And it's to do something that I feel is beneficial to society, but I can't, my ego is going like, yeah, what's in it for me? Why am I doing this? So tell me a little bit. What intrigued me is when you said you move into here from here. And so when you're doing your work, tell me about this experience here for you.
Well, I hear that deeper voice, that voice of wisdom, instead of that voice that says this yoga stuff is for kooks, the soul that says this is it. And I choose to listen here. You know, if you're struggling with this, I recommend just sitting in silence for even 5 minutes, closing your eyes and being aware of your inner space and focusing on your breath and what a miracle of life that is. Mm-hmm. And your body is a temple of your spirit, and how, whether you're seated or standing or lying down, you're supported by Mother Earth. Mm-hmm. Mother Earth is in your bones and in your blood and in your organs and your tissues. Mm-hmm. And this awareness starts to slow the mind down. You can even make that richer by breathing silently I and am as you exhale. And consciously visualize all of your awareness going to your heart center. So if there were a golden flame there, like a candle. Mm-hmm. Allow yourself as fully as you can to slip into pure presence, to really be here. Mm-hmm. And ask your soul, is this the right thing for me?
Okay.
And be prepared to say yes. Now, maybe this isn't the right service project. Maybe you're not ready yet to do it in a way that really serves others, if you still feel conflicted. Mm-hmm. And if that's the choice you make, that's fine. Honor that. Mm-hmm. But instead of making that decision here, make it here. Mm-hmm. It's not the time for you to do this project, then it's not the time. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And if it is, trust your heart and don't let your ego get in the way.
Mm. And what does your heart tell you about your current project?
I think it's my legacy. Mm-hmm. I believe that the more that we help people heal, the more it heals all the people around them. We also know from this work, from self-directed biological transformation, that if I'm stressed with you and you know me, that I will raise your levels of adrenaline and cortisol just by being a stressed person, even if I'm not aggressive towards you. Yeah. And it will make you a little more calm. Mm-hmm. It will change your inner chemistry, and then the people around you, it will change theirs too. Mm-hmm. The direct experience, and either positive or negative. If I'm calm and present and content and affirming with you, that will change your inner chemistry too. Mm-hmm. So if we help a veteran or someone facing major life trauma to heal, it helps to heal their family, their spouses, their children, their greater community, their extended family. Mm-hmm. You know, we have 500,000 veterans with PTSD. We have more than 20 a day committing suicide. Wow. There is widespread domestic abuse, drug addiction, alcoholism, incarceration, even homelessness. I feel like if I help one veteran, I may have also helped their children, their wives or their husbands, their extended families, and their communities. Mm. And to me, that's important work, to do it as best as I can. Yeah. And I feel in bringing these therapies to these populations as best as I can, that I also want to bring empowerment. It's not just about giving you a therapy, but it's about telling you your deeper identity is here. Maybe this identity got broken, like mine did. Mm-hmm. But this never did. Mm. You can have a mission in life again. Mm-hmm. You can have a deeper, more authentic identity. And if you do the work, you can help others do the work. Now, I felt called to do this because I went through PTSD, I went through stage 4 cancer, I went through alcohol and prescription drug addiction. And I really understand now that if someone as dark and broken and dying as me could do this, don't tell yourself that you can't.
Right. Yeah.
I tell my story in the memoir, Warrior Pose, of being a journalist. And of going into the dark night of the soul and crawling out of the abyss. But I don't do it to say, gosh, look what I did, isn't that swell? I do it to say, if that guy could do this, know that you also have the power to heal to your maximum potential, to turn the obstacles in your life into opportunities, to find meaning and authenticity, to own your power again and to live your truth, and to be the change that you seek in yourself, and then you can help others be the change that we all seek in the world.
Beautiful. So tell us a little bit. When I want to go back to something I felt when you were talking about helping PTSD victims get back to their family. I could feel it right here in my heart, and I want to ask you what that means to you, because it's your son, and that actually was the person who ignited, your part. What does it mean to you? Because it feels like that's a driver for you, but I don't know exactly what it means.
Well, he's 17 now, and we're so close, and he's such an amazingly good person of his own doing. He was born that way. What it means is that we all have a capacity to change. We're not stuck. And when we change ourselves, we help so many others heal. Oftentimes, people that we never...
I see, God. So when that feeling that I felt when you said that was that it was an example of the ripple effect of your healing and the ripple effect of healing and helping all others.
Absolutely. And one of the tragedies, I believe, of the medical system that's being offered to most of our veterans, they are told by counselors, you will never heal from PTSD. You will have this the rest of your life. And they are often given psychotropic medications that we now know often lead people to suicide and destroy their lives. And imagine being told you're never going to get better, which was what I was told.
Yeah.
I don't believe that's the truth. I don't just believe, I've experienced that self-directed biological transformation works. I live in Coronado Island in San Diego Bay. This is an international resort, and it's also one of the largest military Navy bases. I have worked with admirals, with Navy SEALs, with enlisted, with men and women, and sat with them in this is my home office here, or had them in our trainings, our Mastery of Life trainings, and I have seen them do the work, those who really caught on and were inspired and the lights went on, and I have seen profound healing take place. We even have people in our Warriors for Healing Foundation who were Marines, who were in the Army, who were in the Air Force, who were in the Navy. And they've healed through this process. And like me, I've heard many of them say, yoga saved my life. We have a big event, June 28th, here at the centerpiece of one of the greatest international historic resorts right on the beach, the Hotel del Coronado, with the Yoga Journal Live Conference at the end of June. And on June 28th, we're bringing everyone together, our Warriors for Healing people who have joined the team on our website and helped raise money for this work. And it will be live streamed across the country. So anybody that is watching this today can watch it on our Warriors for Healing website or the Yoga Journal Live website. If they want, you can make a small donation. What you spend on designer coffee a month, and you will help change some lives.
Okay, so tell us. So
Warriorsforhealing.org site, you can do that, and you can Invite your friends to do it too, so we grow this movement of awareness of what's possible. And you can watch the event, the 90-minute event, live streamed in your living room if you're in Seattle, Washington, or you're in Portland, Oregon, or you're in New York City, or Maine.
So is the experience going to be the interactive experience with Yoga Journal that you're going to be doing on the June 28th? Is it a bunch of practices? Is it going to be asanas? Is it going to be breathing? Is it going to be all of the above?
Well, I'll be doing a lot of that all weekend with you.
Okay.
I have two veterans that are going to play some music, and they are unbelievable. And both of them have been through the dark night of the soul.
Yeah.
And we are going to honor self-directed biological transformation. We're going to move, and we're going to breathe together as one.
Beautiful.
And so this is going to be a celebration experiential, not a yoga class.
God, okay.
And we will have some veterans there that will probably be in wheelchairs, and they will be experiencing this from the heart. But we will move, we will breathe together, we will gather together, we will celebrate and honor seva, which in yoga is selfless service, which is one of the greatest spiritual practices that flows through all spiritual traditions and religions throughout the millennia.
Great. Thank you so much for being here. And on August 1st, you're going to be here at the East West Bookstore. So make sure to go ahead and sign up for tickets for that. Thank you so much for your time. Beautiful
That's
story.
exciting. And I hope I get to meet you at the East West.
Yeah, I should be here. So I'll try to make it. It means so much to me that you're listening to the show. Would love your support in any way by giving me comments below, or to subscribe to the show, or share the show with friends. Thank you again for your support. Love and blessings.